So it's all officially over. Maybe you called it quits, or maybe he called it quits, but regardless of who did it, now it has come to this finalization and this realization that this relationship is over. And I know that it's hard to believe this. It's hard to fathom it, especially when you still have feelings for that person, especially when you still love that person. I know that it feels impossible to think of how to continue without that person. And I know that you are feeling all that urge in the world to try to get back together with him, or still entertain the possibilities of what ifs in the future. Maybe you can still be with that person, or how to get him back. Whatever that may be, you have tried it all. And if everything else that you have tried, continue repairing that relationship, and if nothing else is working anymore, now it's inevitable that you have to move on. And your mind may be wondering, but how? How can this be? And I know that it feels so hard, my dear. But the thing is, right now is actually a sacred chance, or you can call that an opportunity for you to redirect you back on the path of whole, unconditional, healthy love. Right now is actually what determines whether you continue to repeat patterns like these. You continue to stumble upon heartbreaks upon heartbreaks upon heartbreaks like this, or you finally and eventually find a stable, healthy, loving relationship or a partner. How you move on from a relationship is everything, because you cannot try to rush or ignore this process. And I know that I've seen some YouTube videos, advice out there, women telling you how to move on fast, right? But moving on fast doesn't necessarily mean good. Fast doesn't necessarily mean it's healthy, that it'll lead to strong, stable love. And if that is what you're desiring, then this is what we're going to be talking about in this video, by first going through how to not move on from a relationship. Because if you are making these mistakes, then you will continue meeting partners, meeting men who trigger you in the same way, who repeat the same conflicts, right? Whom you find that you're repeating conflicts, repeating the chaos, repeating the drama, whom you continue to have these fights, these breakups with them. How you move on from a relationship, if you don't move on, if you make these mistakes, then you will continue reliving these wounds, reliving these hurts, reliving these pains. Even if you meet someone who is so different, who looks so different, who dress up so different, who talks in a different way, right? Even though if you try to choose a totally different partner, it will still bring up the same triggers, the same wounds, the same heartbreaks, the same patterns. And that is because how you move on from a relationship is everything. I once had a client who, upon first meeting, she asked me this question where she asked me why she has been having a hard time attracting the partner that she particularly desire. And when I meditated upon her and tapped into her soul, I saw that it was because 4 years ago, with that particular ex, she hasn't particularly healed that wound. And no wonder whomever she chooses to date, she keeps on meeting people who leave her or abandon her, reject her, or judge her, right? The same ways as they used to. Which is the reason why how you move on from a relationship is everything. So here, we're going to talk about how to not move on, but because by knowing how to not move on, this is how you know why they don't work, and so that you can realize what your soul, your heart is actually asking from you right now. So, there are so many ways on how people deal with moving on, how people deal with breaking up. And one of the common ways on how women do that, we do that, is by avoidance. Many of us, we want to avoid it because it hurts. I know that it hurts. And for some of us, we try to avoid it by jumping on to a new relationship, by jumping on immediately. Let's go back onto this dating app, dating platform, or try hookups, or whatever that case may be. I know that you want to not think about this situation. I know that you don't want to feel that pain of a breakup anymore. But a lot of us, we try to avoid it. But the thing is, what happens is the more we avoid, the more it continues to persist. The more we avoid the pain, the more we avoid this moving on process, we are actually delaying us from actually receiving whole, true, unconditional love. So ways that women avoid, some include new partners. You may do that through new partners. You may even do that through work. Some end up like overworking so that you don't have to deal with these emotions, right? Deal with these feelings. Know that some of you, especially the hyper ambitious, like driven women, you end up overworking, and also you can avoid through like other distractions, like watching movies. You just want to binge watch episodes, whole TV series. You want to watch these romantic drama or whatever that may be, so that you have to think about someone else's relationship and not yours. I know that it's very tempting at this particular time, and you also want to avoid it through anything that may be, whether it's like, let's glow up, or let's do this transformation, whatever that may be. Even these glow up transformations, even though it may feel empowering on the outside, if you're doing from the place of like, let's avoid this pain, then it's only going to slow this moving on process. It's actually going to be an obstacle in your love life more than it's actually propelling you. And other ways to not move on, right? I'm going to put it like not move on. Here's how to not move on. Another way of how to not move on is for some of us, we do that through clinginess. We try to think about that ex, right? We stalk him. We look over his Instagram. We create this new anonymous account and then look over that, right? We do that, or we cling onto that by thinking, like pedestalizing, romanticizing all those times when you were back with him. And this is particularly true because when you are not in that relationship anymore, the grass looks greener on the other side, right? The grass looks greener like when you're not in it. And just like that, you would look back over your past and see like, oh my God, times were so perfect. How could I not see it, right? But then you're still pedestalizing that person. And when you're pedestalizing him, when you're seeing that he is the perfect person, you may feel like you have lost your chance, right? You have lost your chance, which makes you cling onto that person, like think like, oh my God, I made this mistake. I was the one at fault. So you may put him on a pedestal while pushing you down on the sewer or drainage or whatever, right? You look down at yourself. So when we are clinging onto that person, that is also a surefire way on how we continue repeating these patterns. For the future lovers, you also end up being the one who is grasping, who's needing, who is doing the work for them. And thirdly, you can also be actually not healing, not properly moving on whenever you try to harden. You harden things. As in, you may say, I don't need a man. Love is stupid. Love is just this. It's not possible these days anymore. Right? You may create stories around why love sucks or why men sucks, whatever that may be. So this is another way on how some of us try to move on, but still, it's actually creating this block around our love, like receiving this whole healthy love. You may even harden by trying to work hard, like as in this avoidance phase where you would try so hard in your career or try so hard in your transformation with your having a bikini body so that your ex will regret losing you, right? You want to, I know that you feel the urge to do it, but even if you do it, that's going to hurt you more later on down the road, more than it helps you. So, how do we then move on from this relationship? How do we then move on from this pain? And we do that by actually feeling it instead of ignoring it, instead of avoiding it, instead of thinking that the other person is the one who will save you, instead of thinking that you just lost your chance of your entire life, right? Instead of it, we want to actually look at things for what they are. Instead of trying to cling onto the story, trying to cling onto the past, you want to see your emotions just for what they are. Maybe you feel sad deep down. Maybe you feel hopeless deep down. Maybe you feel guilty. You feel this blame towards yourself. Whatever that may be the case, notice them for what they are. Because by you looking at them, instead of attaching a story to them on like why they shouldn't be here or why they shouldn't be the case, like why you shouldn't feel them, instead of naming them and labeling them and judging them, by you actually feeling them, you allow them to be released. And this is important because if you don't release them, what ends up happening is that like in your heart, you can see it as though like these emotions are like bubble gum, right? So when there is bubble gum, it's going to stick. Anything that you interact with later on, they're gonna be sticking on it, right? They're gonna not feel comfortable because when you step on a piece of gum, it's going to like stick on your shoes and it's gonna be like nasty, right? It's gonna be the same way if we are not releasing the emotions, if we are not processing the emotions, then you are going to meet people who trigger the same emotions. Because these emotions, they demand you to process them, right? They want you to be seen by you. They want to be heard by you. They want to be loved by you, just as how much you want to be seen, heard, and loved by your ex. These are actually coming from your emotions because your emotions are asking and demanding. You know, they're wanting that love from you. And if you don't give them, no one else can give you, right? So, my love, see that this time of this heartbreak or pain, you may call this a heartbreak or a pain, but looking back from your future self, the self who has that unconditional, strong, whole, healthy love, she is going to thank you for this. She's going to thank you for how you move on during this time. Even though it may seem like the lowest time that you are going through, in fact, this is where you find the light. This is where you get the chance to actually experience that love that you have always wanted from someone else inside of you.